Hello all, and welcome to this faction breakdown of the Galactic Republic, or the Grand Army of the Republic. It is known by both in the fandom, but let's get right into this. The Galactic Republic are an elite gunline army, bringing in different phases of clone troopers and numerous Jedi to give you a multitude of options. They can sometimes struggle against high activation lists, although that happens less after the recent rules update lets you skip an activation if your opponent has more. They still struggle somewhat, but it is a little bit more mitigated that way. They also have a lot of moving parts on their basic troops compared to most other armies, which can comparatively make them more complicated. But don't worry, it becomes second nature pretty quickly. Their strengths are this: they are the second strongest gunline next to the Empire. The only reason I say second is because on paper the Empire can put out a little bit more suppression, which is useful. They take advantage of surge tokens a lot. There is a lot of synergies with them, and it leans into a very heavy use for them. Surges, for those who don't know, are special dice facings that have a different symbol than a hit, and surge tokens that you convert those into hits or crits depending on the rules. They can run multiple light side heroes together, although the Rebels will also be able to do that soon with the release of Fulcrum Ahsoka Tano. They have a decent output of suppression, which if the enemy has more suppression tokens in their courage value, they can become panicked if they fail to rally. This means they have to make a move to the edge of the board, and if the unit leader leaves the board, then that unit is defeated. First up, we have their command cards, and this is the Republic-specific command cards. We have Synchronized Offensive, which is a pretty decent 1-pip, as it lets you get 2 orders off in a combined arms list. Air Support has surprising versatility built into it, as it lets you carry on 2 extra beam attacks into 2 other units at range 1, and since it's range 4, it could be a good way to get a decent amount of damage out early game. Attack of the Clones gives you either a surge token or lets you remove a suppression. Not bad, but compared to your Commander 3-pips, that might not be taken as often. Starting off with Obi-Wan Kenobi's command cards, they exist very much to keep him alive. Hello There is a good way to give Obi-Wan enough buffs to get him out of a bad situation, which giving him an aim, dodge, standby, or surge token for each enemy at range 1 to 2. Knowledge and Defense heavily buffs him if he is surrounded by multiple clone units, and does let Obi-Wan also protect them from melee with Guardian as well. He is buffed as he gains dodge tokens for the people around him. General Kenobi is the main buff card. It gives Obi-Wan and 2 troopers orders, gives surge tokens to unit he gives orders to, and they get 1 surge for each friendly unit within range 1 of them. This is a good way to get a lot of things out there fast. I couldn't find a good image of them, but Captain Rex's command cards reward good positioning. I apologize, my neighbor's dog is barking if you can hear it in this recording. Call Me Captain is his 1-pip. It gives him fire support, but for each use of fire support, he doesn't flip his token. This means you can add his ranged attack to as many attacks as you can fit, and even lets him shoot into melee. This can be a great card when set up right, and for a 1-pip, it is really good. Take That Clankers is his 2-pip, and it gives 2 orders. It allows any clone trooper that has a face-up order to increase its weapon range by 1 to a max of 4 if it takes an aim action. Again, this is really good, and it makes your gunline even better. We're Not Programmed gives out a whopping 4 orders and gives Rex Inspire 2 and 2 surge tokens, and lets Rex use Recover. This is an amazing 3-pip to use, as it buffs all of your mainline core units, and it makes your gunline that much better. Anakin's command cards buff him and make him stronger the longer the game goes on. His flaw card will be discussed on his unit breakdown, but just know this, you don't want to get a suppression on him at the end of the turn. This is where the fun begins, lets him use dodge tokens to ignore crits, and lets him get a free melee attack action if he ends a move within range of an enemy. He gets 1 suppression token if he wasn't the first to activate. You Underestimate My Power gives Anakin Skywalker and 1 unit in order. Anakin gains Surge to Crit and Master of the Force 1, which lets him refresh a force power at the end of his turn. He gets 1 suppression if he doesn't attack something. Just to specify, all of these upgrades listed so far are permanent for the rest of the game, and so is this next one. Hero of the Clone Wars gives an order to Anakin and 2 others. It also gives him Exemplar, which allows unit at range 1 to 2 and in line of sight, spend your green tokens. It also gives him Reliable 2, which generates 2 surges at the start of the turn. He gets 1 suppression if he is not within range 2 of a friendly unit at the end of the turn. This is amazing. Again, I like all of these cards, and his flaw card punishes you if you have any suppression at the end of the turn. It requires good playing, but it can be done. Next up are Yoda's command cards. Yoda's cards are focused on him giving buffs to friendly units, and they kind of work on a rock, paper, scissors-esque triangle. You can reuse every command card at least once per game. Size Matters Not is his 1-pip and gives him a lot of movement options with Jump 1, Charge, and Disengage. It also lets him use 2 free force actions and 2 card actions, which can be very useful. It also gives you back There Is No Try if it is in your discard pile. There Is No Try gives a lot of buffs to a trooper unit, with Relentless and Outmaneuver along with a dodge token. It also gives you back Luminous Beings Are We if it is in your discard pile. Luminous Beings Are We gives you a lot of tokens to spread around and gives every unit within range 3 an order, which makes it absolutely amazing. It also gives you back Size Matters Not. Yoda is good. He is a quarter of your army, but he is good. Next up is Chewbacca. Chewbacca has one unique Republic command card. This is kind of pointless to take, as Yoda is already an expensive hero, and taking Chewbacca on top of him is almost a third of your army. If you do manage to work this in, it heavily increases Chewie's survivability, and Yoda's as well. The Wookie Chieftain command cards are just the generic Wookie cards, as Chewbacca can take them as well. The 1-pip. When a friendly unit is issued an order by a commander Wookie trooper unit, if it is wounded, or one or more of its minis has been defeated, it gains 1 aim, 1 dodge, and 1 surge token. Pretty good 1-pip. 2-pip. Each friendly Wookie trooper unit that is issued an order by a commander Wookie, which is 2, trooper gains Agile 1, which means the generated dodge token. The 3-pip. Each friendly Wookie trooper unit that is issued an order by a commander Wookie trooper gains Demoralize 1, which is useful, but none of these are worth taking over generic Republic cards unless you're heavily building into Wookiee lists. Commander Cody's command cards. Cody buffs the gunline of the Republic and works pretty well with Obi-Wan or really any other Jedi. Bring It Down is your 1-pip, and lets Cody perform his observe action twice, which puts tokens on the enemy that you can spend like surge tokens. When your units use the tokens, they gain suppressive, so it has really good synergy with that. Have I Ever Let You Down is built around making it tough for your enemy to focus down one of your units. This lets Cody issue an order at range 1 to another troop, but anytime they're attacked, Cody can do a range 4 attack. I like this one a lot. It's hard to use right, but Cody's shooting is good and it makes people pause. Combined Arms gives a much needed buff to vehicles. Cody can use Observation twice again, and whenever a vehicle performs an attack against that unit observed, they can spend a token to get a free move 1. This is actually really good with a lot of the vehicles you have access to. Padme's command cards are interesting. She's kind of like an R2-ish unit, as she has ways to get you extra victory points, so a lot of these are built around that. Our Fate is in your hands. Padme gets Danger Sense 2, and can transfer suppression tokens onto herself from trooper units at range 1 to 2. She gains up to 2 dodge tokens while doing this, 1 for each token. This has limited situational usefuls, but keeps her alive longer. Aggressive Negotiations gives Padme and a trooper an order. Anytime she issues an order to a trooper unit, it can perform a speed 1 move or gain 1 aim, dodge, or surge token. Diplomatic Cover permanently gives her Secret Mission if it is divulged during deployment, which gives an extra VP if she gets to the opponent's deployment zone and lives to the end of the game. She also gains a dodge token during deployment, and this card is the main reason to take her. If not divulged, she gets reliable 1 and nothing else, so divulge it. Play it right. R2-D2. Very much the same as the Rebel version of him. They are built to mess with your enemies. Blast Off increases his speed and gives him survivability. Impromptu Immolation gives you a decent weapon and a free move action after an attack. And Smokescreen gives you a cover generator and the ability to get a sneaky move to another trooper. Pretty good. We've seen it before. On to the 501st Legion Battleforce. Currently the only Battleforce available to the Galactic Republic, the 501st Legion restricts the heroes to just Anakin and Rex, and the generic clone commander. It lets you take 4 ARC troopers, which can be useful if you like the flavor. It also limits you to phase 2 clones only for your core. Main reason you would take this is for the command cards, which are actually pretty good, surprisingly. Lead from the Front is a great way to get 3 1-pips into your hand, and it gives out a decent amount of aim or dodge tokens. Tactical Planning is a good way to mess with your enemy's activation order, and since you're probably bringing at least the ARC troopers anyway, it's not hard to do that. Leaders of the 501st is another good Anakin buff card, and lets you roll red dice to clear suppression. This is also really good against other armies that deal out suppression tokens, like the Empire. It's a really good way to prevent their suppression gunline from actually affecting you. And again, The only reason you take the Battleforce. Starting onto the unit cards, we're starting with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan suffers from being the first Republic hero to be released. He's a solid choice, just not as specialized as some others. Having Critical 2 lets you convert 2 Surge facings into crits, Impact and Pierce are your standard lightsaber fare. Guardian 3 means you can take 3 non-crit attacks on trooper units within range 1 and in line of sight, and defend up to that many hits. This is ranged only, not melee unless you use the command cards. This is decent, but situational. Soresu Master rewards you with using a dodge token to get Surge to defend. However, you don't really want to waste an action on dodge tokens. Master of the Force 1 is a good standard that lets Obi-Wan keep his powers refreshed and makes him very useful to still take. Charge and Jump as well are also good for his movement options, and it does make it act like he does have 3 activations, as you want to do melee anyway. Clone Captain Rex is a solid gunslinging machine that is good at making your clones more maneuverable. Gunslinger gives you 2 ranged attacks and with 3 red dice apiece, and Surge to crit. These things can hit really hard. Scout 1 and Scouting Party gives Rex a Speed 1 move and 2 other clones a Speed 1 move at the start of the game. I love this. It's great, it's flavorful, it's awesome. Sharpshooter lets you reduce cover by 1, making his Gunslinger that much better. Tactical 1 gives you a free aim token, making his Gunslinger that much better. He does have a jetpack upgrade, which gives him Jump 2 for just 5 points, making him a very mobile, solid, gunslinging choice with red saves. This is a really good character, a really good hero, and probably some of your best bang for the buck. Anakin Skywalker is a very strong Jedi with a flaw built in. His flaw card must be given to the enemy player at the start of the game. It can be played at any time you start a command phase if Anakin has a suppression token, and you can't issue an order to Anakin that turn if it is played. Pretty straightforward. You might want to bait it out early, so that way you can avoid having it, hit you hard later on. Depends. Gem Soul Mastery is a slightly better defense option than Obi-Wan's, and I like it. It gives more wounds out, and it makes it a little better. Tempted gives you access to dark side powers. I like this a lot. Anakin with Force Choke, really good. Impact 3 and Pierce 3 make him a very hard hitter. Next up is your generic clone commander. This is worth taking very often. The generic clone commander fulfills a good role of being a cheap order giver. Bolster 2 gives your clones even more Surge tokens. Direct gives a free order every command phase, which is very useful. And Sharpshooter 1 on a 3 black dice ranged attack is a very good way to prevent cover saves for a good attack. And saving on reds? It's good. It's a good commander unit. That rebel hero that's the generic should take some notes from this, because for just a few points more, this is 10 times more useful. Yoda is a very good commander, arguably the best the Republic has. However, his point cost does make it kind of hard. Ataru Mastery rewards you for making attacks, but it's situational, so it won't fully come into play unless Yoda is engaged in melee. Guidance lets you buff your clone's action economy a lot. Master of the Force 2 means you regen your force powers fully every turn, so using Push and Jedi Mind Trick every turn as free actions is a very good way to mess with the enemy. And he has very good ranged attacks, and surges to crit and defend, especially for a Saber user who usually don't get ranged attacks without, taking a force power for it. Having all of this built in, the only weakness of his is the 5 health. You would want something with Guardian near him to take up some of the shots. Or just position him well enough. He's a small enough model, it can be easy to get him into cover too. The Wookie Chieftain is meant to buff Wookiees, but is a surprisingly strong commander on his own. Agile makes him live a lot longer. Charge gives a free melee attack action after moving, so moving twice into combat is possible. Indomitable is also very good, and surging on attack and defense is solid. He's not going anywhere for suppression unless you roll horribly. His melee is really good with 2 red, black, and white dice, and along with a good range with 4 black with impact and pierce make him a decent threat. And with duelist and getting an aim token, getting Pierce 1 and then getting Immune Pierce, he could take out a Saber wielder with some luck. Chewbacca is a decent commander and only slightly better than his rebel self. In range 4 makes him stronger the more wounds he takes. Guardian 2 is decent, but it's really only good to apply to Yoda, and for the point cost, it's not amazing. Reliable 2 gives him decent Surge token generation. He is hitting with mostly reds, and Lethal 1 can add Pierce to his melee by spending an aim token, and his ranged attack can pack quite a punch as well. So all in all, pretty good character. Saving on whites is his main weakness. Cody is a very good combined arms commander. He is best used when vehicles and troopers are being run. Observe 2 is a free action and has range 3, but it's very useful. Jump gives him a lot of movement options. Take cover 1 lets you generate dodge tokens for units. Direct vehicle gives a free order for a vehicle at range 2. Target 1 gives you an aim token after an order. With surge to crit and 2 red, 1 black, 1 white attack, his range attack damage is good, and considering his command cards lean on this, they can be even better. Commander Cody is just as good as Rex, and you have just as much reason to take him. Padme Amidala is a sly, fast-moving unit with a good amount of staying power. Quick Thinking gives you a dodge and aim token, and combined with Nimble, you are always auto-saving 1 dice each time you are attacked. Authoritative lets you daisy chain an order out. Exemplar lets you spread the love a little, although I would only give the aim token out, the dodge token is worth keeping. Sharpshooter 2 means you are completely ignoring cover. Her only weakness is a white defense dice. If you roll poorly, she could disappear to 1 or 2 attacks. She has an upgraded gun with 1 red and 1 white dice. It is a little less consistent than the 3 black. I would keep the 3 black. R2-D2 is a cheap but simple annoyance you can toss at your enemies, and they have to focus on him because if they don't, you get a victory point. And that's the main reason you take him. Grounded and movement 1 means getting him to the enemy is hard, and sometimes it can just not be worth the hassle. Repair gives him some healing to your vehicles, which does help make him worth the point cost. C-3PO is an extra 15 points, and does make it so that you have an ability to force enemies to attack you no matter what. This is very situational. Inconspicuous is the only reason you can actually get him to the enemy's deployment zone, so it's still possible. And starting with the core breakdown, we have the Phase 1 clones. Phase 1 clones are a good backbone for your gun line. When properly positioned and good use of fire support, you can focus down enemy units. However, they are expensive compared to other armies' mainline core units. Saving on reds is a plus for core units. They have 2 base upgrades. The DC-15 Trooper adds 2 red dice to the attack pool, and a max range of 4, and critical 1, which converts 1 surge. The Z6 Trooper adds 6 white dice to the attack pool with a max range of 3. This is a lot of fun to take to lean into the gunline aspect of the Republic, and it theoretically doubles the amount of hits you get. The Phase 1 upgrade expansion. The Clone Trooper upgrades adds 4 models, the Captain, Specialist, DP-23, and RPS-6. The Clone Captain gives you an extra training slot and lets you ignore suppression. The Specialist gives an upgrade option and lets you gain an aim, dodge, or surge token at the start of the turn. The DP-23 adds 2 black, 1 white dice at max range 1 and pierce 1, which cancels 1 save. Also pretty good. The RPS-6 gives you a good anti-armor gun with a catch. You can't shoot it on a turn you move. That also means moving after firing. If you use it as a fire support option, it is really good as it adds impact 2 to the result as well. So, best way to use it is good positioning, then fire support it. Next we have the Phase 2 clones. More expensive than Phase 1 clones, they do have some benefits. They get access to Reliable 1, which gives them extra surge token generation. Courage 2 helps deal with suppression and makes it harder to panic. They have access to a mortar, which adds 2 black dice to max range 4 and critical 1, which gives a free surge conversion along with suppressive, which gives an additional suppression token. This has cumbersome, so it is best used as a fire support option like the previous rocket launcher. They also have a Z6 Trooper that is the same as the Phase 1 Z6. Really fun to take. Next is the Republic Specialists. This gives you a Clone Commander Mini, a Comms Technician, an Engineer, and a Medic. These can all be used with Phase 1 and 2 clones. The Commander can be run as a unit upgrade, which gives him Inspire 1 and lets him remove 1 suppression for range 1 to 2 friendly troopers, and Reliable 1 gives an extra surge token. This is slightly worse than running him as his own thing, but also cheaper points-wise, so worth taking sometime. The Comms Technician gives an extra training, but you have to take the slot, so it is a bit of a points investment, but it can be worth it. Clone Engineer gives Repair 1, which lets you remove a wound, ion, or vehicle damage token from a vehicle, or heal 1 friendly droid mini within range 1, which is situational. The Clone Medic removes a wound token, poison token, or restores a mini to a unit within range 1. This is great and amazing and a good way to keep your army alive longer. Waxer and Boyo come with Commander Cody and can be built as Phase 1 or 2. They are taken as upgrades and currently cost 15 points each. Waxer gives Scout 1, Disciplined 1, and must be the unit leader. This gives an early game move and removes a suppression when issued in order. Boyo gives Guardian 1, which lets his unit take on 1 save from another, and Scout 1, which gives an early game move. Boyo with Yoda is surprisingly good. The ARC Trooper are your first of the Special Forces. ARC Troopers are your elite of the elite clones. With Impervious, they do better against Pierce attacks. Scout 2 gives you a decent early move. Sharpshooter and Tactical make you a good range threat, and you can give them a jetpack upgrade to get to Jump 2. They have a DC-15X ARC Trooper that makes their guns immune to Deflect, and Lethal 1, which lets you use the aim token you already have to get Pierce 1. With the upgrades and the closer range blasters, they can be a good enemy Jedi or Sith killer. Useful to take if a little overcosted. The Special Forces ARC Trooper Strike Team. These are the same as your normal ARC Troopers, but they have one normal and one upgrade card mini only. I am going to take this opportunity to talk about Echo and Fives. They come in the ARC Troopers kit and can be taken with any of the Clone Trooper units. Before I do though, this is a good activation filler unit. Do not rely on it heavily, a lot like the Rebels Strike Force team. Echo has a range 5 2 red dice attack and gives reliable 1, critical 1, lethal 1, and immune deflect. He is also 2 health, but costs 42 points currently. Fives gives a range 3 3 black dice attack and increases the unit's courage by 1. He has Coordinate, Clone Trooper, which lets you issue an order to another clone unit if he is issued an order. He also has 2 health and is currently 40 points. Both of these are good. You should probably take one in every list you have. They have actually surprisingly good use and a good spread around. Fives seems extremely popular, especially with his order economy help to make it so you can activate what you want when you want. Next up are the Wookiee Warriors, the first version, the Kashyyyk Defenders. These are your range-based Wookiees. They have a decent ranged attack with 2 white dice, and scale means they have better movement than it first seems. All 3 of their upgrade cards are useful. Bowcaster Wookiee adds a red-white dice and is useful against vehicles. Battle Shield Wookiee has 2 modes, Offensive, which gives 2 red dice to the melee pool, and Defensive, which is 2 black dice. But you gain the Armor 1 keyword, which lets you auto-save 1 non-crit hit. Long Gun Wookiee also adds a 2 black dice attack into the army, but also gives units you shoot an extra suppression token. Not bad. These are your melee-based Wookiees, the Wookiee Warriors Noble Fighters. Duelist lets you add a Pierce to melee attacks and get immunity to Pierce, which makes them surprisingly good at killing lightsaber wielders. Indomitable means getting panicked is really hard. Scale and Charge make their movement options really good, and they share the same upgrade cards with the other Wookiees, so Battle Shield is most likely a must-take with these guys. Next up are the BARC Speeders, the first of our vehicles, and surprisingly the Republic vehicles are good. Cody, with the vehicle list, can do a lot of damage. The BARC Speeder has a surprising amount of versatility built into it, with Arsenal 2. It has 3 upgrade cards. Its Ion Gunner gives a red 3, 1 white impact, and Ion 1 anti-vehicle attack. Its RP-6 Gunner gives an even better damage-based anti-vehicle attack at 1 red, white, and black with impact 2, but reduces its movement to move 2 and doesn't give Ion tokens. Its Twin Laser Gunner gives 2 red and 2 white attacks, but it is a fixed gun, so pivot wisely. Cover 1 and Speeder 1 are your basic Speeder things as well, so you always have Cover 1, you always autosave one thing, and you can make technically 3 moves in one turn. Next up is the ATRT. This is almost exactly like the Rebel ATRT, but slightly more damage on its base gun with 1 red, 2 white, and critical 1, impact 1. Armor is super useful, and with the Surge to Defend, it's even better than the Rebel one. Its Rotary Gun Blaster is a 5 black dice upgrade card that makes it a much bigger threat against infantry. It does have a Flamethrower card that does 2 black dice for every model in an enemy unit, however it is only ranged 1, so it is a bit of a risk to get that close. Less so with the Surge to Defend though. Its Laser Cannon upgrade is a really good anti-armor option with 1 red, 2 black dice, but the clones have better anti-armor options elsewhere, so it's not really worth taking at all. The Raddaugh Gnasp Fluttercraft, which I horribly mispronounced there, is a very interesting speeder harassing unit. With the immune it has, it can be very good to get up and close and personal with it. It's immune to blast, melee, and all range 1 weapons, which is good, it's really good. The Gnasp Bombardier gives immune deflect, 2 red, and 2 white dice attack, and suppressive, but it also has overrun too. So you can only use this attack when you move over an enemy unit. It's a free action, and this means you can fly like a bomber over 2 enemies and deal really good damage. And with the movement it has, with Speeder 2 and its 2 moves, you can cover a lot of the board even at move 2. And a permanent cover 2, always auto-saving 2. Gnasp Gunner is a 2 red, 2 black dice range 3 attack. It is a fixed rear gun, so careful movement is still needed, and it also gives Impact 1 and a Pierce 1, so it is definitely decent. It's a good anti-armor and a good anti-infantry weapon. I like this on paper a lot. In practice, it would be hard to use properly, but when pulled off, I mean, it's memorable. It's gotta be fun. The TX-130 Saber tank. This is your mainline Republic tank. It is good and can dominate the game if the enemy doesn't have the proper anti-armor options with its 9 health, saving on reds. Its main weakness is its weak points are rear and sides, so proper positioning is key to keep it alive for longer. With upgrade cards, you can give different pilots, so having this be a floating Inspire 2 and Field Commander, which means it can issue orders, or Agile 2 Dodge Token Generator, or just a Surge Token Generator makes it super versatile as well, and a centerpiece to any list. It has 2 gun upgrades. The Twin Laser Turret gives 3 black dice and critical 1 at range 3. However, you're taking this for the Beam Cannon. Beam 2, which means you get 2 extra attacks at range 1. And 2 red dice means you're rolling 2 red dice and 3 separate enemy units all within range 1 of each other. Pretty good, pretty consistent, kills battle droids pretty fast. The LAAT/LE Patrol Transport. Sadly, not the LAAT you're thinking of. Armor and Arsenal give it a good amount of staying power on the field. Cover and Hover keep it alive and very mobile. Its immune list is very useful, and Transport 1 closed means you need to take something in this to make it worth that point investment. It has 3 unique pilots. One gives Field Commander and Surge Token Generation. One gives Surge, Aim, Dodge when the transported unit disembarks, and the last gives it Observe 4, which is situationally useful but can be pretty actually good. It has 3 generic vehicle weapon upgrades as well. Armor Piercing is 1 red and 2 black, and it's good anti-vehicle. Bunker Buster is 1 red, 3 white anti-infantry, and High Energy Shells, which has 2 red, 1 white, and is used to cancel out dodges. Next up on the heavy list is the Infantry Support Platform. Now, this is a fast-moving tank and is a fun, cheap way to get a heavy into the game. Armor 3 is really good, and canceling 3 results is the average most units roll against you anyway. Ground lets you move very freely for a vehicle unit. Weak point rear and sides makes position once again super important, which is good. It has 1 pilot upgrade, which gives it fire support, which is really fun. It has 3 weapon options. Twin beam cannons makes me happy. It is 2 red, 2 white dice attack, and beam 2. This can clear B1s off the board with ease statistically. 2 rounds, 3 rounds, you could wipe 3 units of B1s off the board just with it alone. Twin Blaster Cannon is a range 3, gives you Gunslinger but at half the attack pool. Critical 2, 6 black dice attack. This is also pretty good as it can focus down individual targets pretty well and can be split. Twin Missile Pods are your anti-vehicle weapons, Impact 2 and Range 2. 4 red dice attack. It also has the half attack pool Gunslinger option as well, so can be split pretty well. Here's a possible first list. This is made specifically after looking at all this and seeing what I would enjoy running. We have Clone Commander Cody with Offensive Push, some Phase 1 clones, some Phase 2 clones, all with different upgrades. Some ARC Troopers, which just seem kind of fun to take, and Echo is a lot of fun. An ATRT, a BARC Speeder with Ion Gunner for some good anti-vehicle, and an Infantry Support Platform with its pilot and its twin beam cannons. Now, this is not a competitive list. And, I mean, I think you can see it's not a competitive list. It only has 8 activations after all. But, it is not a bad idea to think about and pushes into what Commander Cody does well. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you want breakdowns on the Rebel Alliance, the Shadow Collective, go watch those videos I made now. Next week is the Empire, the week after that the CIS, and the week after that I'm breaking down all of the mercenary units and how they work in each army, because the Republic opens up so much more when you take some mercenaries in it. If you think it has some weaknesses, the mercs fill all of those in, and more. And while I'm not happy an army has to rely on them so much, it is nice to know you can play these guys competitively, even if it seems like on paper it's kind of harder to. Thank you guys so much for supporting this video and watching it again. I hope this audio turned out well. I tried something a little different. Let me know in the comments. Have a wonderful day.